Welcome to day 2 of the Centre Court Festival. Yesterday was filled with words like exhilaration and enthusiasm as we met with the admissions directors and career services directors of many of the world's top business schools. And we're not going to lose that energy today. If anything, we'll take it a step. We'll take everything that we learned yesterday a step further. And start with a wonderful group of careers professionals that I've had the joy to welcome to Centre Court before. Many of you will recognise Tony Symonds. Tony is the Director of Employment Engagement at HEC Paris. It's lovely to have you with us, Tony. And dialing in from late evening in KL, Malaysia, we have Sean Ferguson. Sean is the Senior Associate Dean of the Asia School of Business, has a wonderful business school career behind him, and is the man behind the idea of sharps and smarts. And I'll be getting him to talk about that a little bit later on. Joop Elemans joins us from Rotterdam. Joop is the Director of the RSM Career Centre, and was also just telling me that one of the MBAs at Rotterdam actually helped to get that ship that was stuck out of the Suez Canal back into action and into the port in Rotterdam. I'm sure that we'll be talking about supply chain as one of the great career options that's really opened up in terms of opportunities. Also with us, Zeynep Fleuret. Zeynep is the head of employer engagement at INSEAD, and of course across different campuses can bring insights and perspectives, not just from Europe, but across the Middle East, Asia, and even from North America. So a fantastic panel to begin with. Tony, as we were just before we got started, you said you actually had the nice problem of too many recruiters and thinking you might have to send some of them away. Give us a context of what the last few months have been like, placement rates for your graduates and the sort of industries that are showing such high level of interest for your HEC Paris MBA students.
Sure, of course. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Everything is fine?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice and clear.
Nice and clear. Yes, I mean, if we go back 18 months, it's March 2020 when the pandemic was coming in. None of us knew what to expect. I think we were all expecting the worst. We thought that the whole market would collapse for higher education. We hadn't a clue about how we were going to deliver it, etc. But the reality has been actually, apart from a small dip in spring 2020, the market's been better than ever. And now that things are coming back to normal, I've never seen such a robust job market for MBAs. We've already, I don't know, you probably are familiar with placement rates, etc. Our class of 2021 has done very well. We've just finished the data collection for them, and it's been really, really good. Not just the percentage, but the quality. The second thing is for 2022, the level of interest from our recruiters has been, and from new people as well too, has been, I've never seen it higher, not just for MBAs, but across all programs at HEC. This is a very good sign, I think, for the future. Of course, we can never assume moving into the next 2 to 3 years what might happen, but I think we can say that the job market for MBAs is looking very good. And also, what is probably even more crucial, has proved very resilient in the last 18 months. So we faced a major crisis. What we saw on the school side, not just at the career center side, but also wider in general curriculum, that schools were very quick to move to the virtual model of giving lessons. Now everything is going back to blended. We're doing the same thing at the career side with our recruiting events. And I think it also reflects well on the students who all of a sudden had to shift from doing internships in person to virtual. That all went really, really well, and hats off to everybody who did such a great job. So it's all very positive for the future. That doesn't mean that things can't change, but I'm glad to report that we've had a very, very good 18 months, notwithstanding the problems we've had.
Tony, I've had the joy of sharing events with you. We've been in this industry for many, many years, even more than I care to admit. And you actually characterize this as the most robust MBA job market that you've seen.
Mm-hmm. I think so. In general, I thought, it was very, very robust. Sort of just before the financial services crash. It was also very robust before the tech crash, which was like a generation ago. So therefore, I'm always, when I see things like this, I'm always thinking about what might happen in the future. But I think the fact that we've just been through a crisis and the job market has remained robust is a very, very sign. It shows that things are different. And as I said, speaking to companies, they're definitely not sort of saying we just need to get some people in right now because everything is coming back to normal. They're talking about 2022, 2023. They're talking about building longer term relationships. And from speaking to my colleagues, I think it's the same experience for everybody around the table here. So it's not just HEC.
Well, that's a great place to start. Sean, of course, with that frontier mindset of yours and a fascinating venture with the ASB setting up in KL. Slightly different in terms of the Southeast Asian economy now starting to emerge from some of the restrictions of the pandemic, but it's always been a very dynamic market. What are you seeing?
Yeah, so thanks, Matt. It's great to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity. Tech continue to be strong, but we also are seeing strength in professional services. We've had offers, at the beginning of the year for the class that's graduating in consulting, and that's something that doesn't typically happen. Management consulting in this part of the world, sometimes their approach, particularly in some of the non-hub markets like a Singapore or Hong Kong, it's kind of disjointed, but we've seen a proactiveness here that's been something atypical to what we've seen before. So there's that growth. You can tell that we're coming out of the kind of COVID cycle. When it comes to technology, similar things, all things digital, even for like your traditional players, we're seeing a huge interest in those areas. And so we're excited about the prospects of what it looks like down the end of the road. The big challenge that we have is, because there's not as large a structured MBA hiring cycle, recruiters in this part of the world are always looking for now. And sometimes their hiring horizon is in the 8 to 12 week range. And so for us, most of our students will graduate in April and they're ready to hire now. And so what that's created is an opportunity for some of our alums actually, and our working professional students who are looking for, who are considering switching jobs and such, to hit on those opportunities more real time than some of our full-time students. We just did an alumni survey, and it's been results that I've never seen before. 80% of our recent graduates have gotten promoted already. Usually, in the multiple schools that I've worked at, that's been like 50% of a class gets promoted within 3 years of graduation. We've been seeing annualized salary growth in the low teens, and so even beyond just placement, the value of the MBA and how it's being rewarded in the marketplace is super compelling in this part of the world. And so one of the things we tell our students, even if it's not the perfect role, the opportunity in this part of the world really positions you to accelerate at a very rapid pace.
Great, because we often sort of focus on that immediate post-MBA job market, but a really worthwhile reminder that all of you at your schools are preparing individuals for the longer term in their careers, and that they're being rewarded with promotions at that fast track that you're describing. Zeynep, obviously with the footprint of INSEAD, I was reading a report in Bloomberg that was saying that now hedge funds in China are offering even more attractive salaries than Wall Street. As you look at those different regions of the market, what sort of trends are you seeing at INSEAD?
So INSEAD has always been very international. In the classroom, we do not have a dominant culture. No nationality represents more than 12% of the student body. So the recruiters are very international and global as well. So I think our employment report is pretty decent to give a lot of trends. So I would encourage, our attendees to go and check it out. They can see the trends. But what we see is really the tech boom. We have always been very strong in management consulting historically, and our students continue to choose after their MBA management consulting because our alumni tell us is like the continuity of their MBA. You get exposed to multiple sectors and continue to learn. But what we see with the pandemic, obviously some digitalization trends, and we see growth in students choosing tech, big technology companies like Amazon, but also like scale-ups and fintechs. And fintech, especially payment companies, are seeing huge amounts of venture capital investments. And there are like cool disruptive companies popping up. Pandemic created lots of opportunities in e-commerce in Asia, obviously young population, health tech, and logistics. One of the trends I see is the boom in the super fast grocery delivery, under 10 minutes, like Getir, Gorillas, and that's in various countries. So we have seen also that Amazon is prepping up to launch a super fast grocery service in the UK. So we are waiting to see in the next year whether those trends will continue or whether it's specific to the pandemic. But I echo Tony, it has been a very, very good year for our students and alumni.
And Tony was commenting, Zeynep, that of course, using a digital platform for recruitment has enabled a reach that perhaps we didn't use as much 2, 3, 4 years ago. Has that also sort of changed the aspirations and the mobility of students, saying, I can actually connect with a recruiter in this part of the world now, and how that's sort of shaping where they head after their INSEAD MBA?
Exactly. Like we have always been people going to like 60 different countries after their MBA. That has always been the trend. We have like more than 260 unique countries, like companies recruiting from us every year. That we have seen a boom. Like especially Latin America, obviously now is really close to us. And we have been doing events with them. And I totally can see that also the students' mindset has shifted. And I can also see that even in Europe, within Europe, maybe not necessarily the big hubs, but a lot of different geographies are now in demand. That's the biggest shift I'm seeing.
Right. And Tony, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something. Probably everybody's seen this, but it's an anecdote that people have, when we're speaking to recruiters now and they're talking about where they want students or alumni to go, they'll have 3 options instead of 2. Well, one was home country, the other one was headquarters. Now there's a third one, which is virtual. So they're actually offering virtual jobs to students, not expecting them to be at the home office maybe for a few years. And that's very interesting because it also could have implications for visas down the road. That you could work for a company in your home country, as it were, but yet you're working for a so-called international company. So it's very interesting what's happening at the moment. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. There's an article waiting to be written for home country HQ and now virtual. Well, Job, I mean, Rotterdam, of course, is the sort of the logistics nerve center of Europe, with the biggest port. We talked about the Suez Canal, but tech, consulting still. Have you seen a shift in terms of supply chain and other industries, healthcare, perhaps in addition to tech and consulting, that have always come to RSM?
No, yeah, actually, to be honest, fintech, that is like the enormous increase of students finding jobs in the fintech industry. So yeah, logistics. If you really look to the logistic companies, I mean, is Amazon a logistic company? You can argue that, and but that again has been the biggest recruiter of RSM, and they that's probably for most of the other, definitely the European schools. I'm not sure about KL, but Amazon is increasing their recruitment needs again this year. So that is, I mean, and all those similar organizations are heavily recruiting at the moment, and MBA students with their, of course, their knowledge, but also their mindset, their competencies, their career drive. The MBA students find good careers in these kind of organizations. But fintech was really the #1 increase of hiring MBA students from RSM.
So yeah, how does it work in terms of you and your team and supporting this intake of MBAs? If we look at, Rotterdam has an MBA program that runs from January to December. So your current students, applied, and Brandon and his colleagues were looking at their applications back in the spring and summer of 2020, just as the first wave of the pandemic. And perhaps they were talking about, well, my post-MBA career goals. You've been working through them through all of this period of uncertainty and shifting trends. How do you provide that sort of guidance, staying on top of everything that's happening, and support them in, what are their very personal career goals?
What we do is we take it a very personal journey with our students. So in the first 6 months, basically, they work in small groups, which we call backpack teams. So you have your backpack filled already with your history, and you're going to put more information and experiences in your backpack while you're doing the MBA. And you're put into a small group, which is guided by one of our career team members. And you're taken through a program in the first 6 months with that team. So you can, a lot of peer feedback. And then after 6 months, roughly, it continues more on an individual basis. You do not lose your backpack team, but you get more individual guidance. It has been mostly online, the support of our students, which is has a lot of benefits. I mean, Tony already mentioned quite a few. It also, of course, it is challenging sometimes, but it has some positive sides as well. Unfortunately, like for students, it was sometimes a lot of hours behind the screens. Not only the classes were online, but then also the career support was online. So I'm really looking forward to the coming weeks and months, where for us, as most of the MBAs are now looking for jobs, they're in their last phase of their full-time MBA. And they're really active in the job market, and we are able to meet them more on campus. Saying that, most companies still want to meet the students virtually. So some companies are not even allowed to visit the university. Others do not want to travel, or all kinds of reasons. But most of our recruitment is still virtual. But it works, and it's definitely a huge shift, and part of it will continue to exist virtually.
Right, and we've talked about characteristics of resilience and adaptability that have gone hand in hand with this situation. Sean, Tony commented earlier that that recruiters have really stayed with the schools during this downturn. Perhaps if we compare to the financial crisis, or we'll go further back to the dot-com bubble. Does that really speak to this intrinsic, enduring value of the MBA? That those sort of core skills that you're really enhancing during the program, that's what employers want, even in the last 18 months of such uncertainty.
I couldn't be a bigger advocate for the MBA, because the way the world is now is the problems are big, interdisciplinary, and complex, right? And all of us are at global schools, right? So we're not, the companies that we work with and partner with aren't just doing it within their boundaries, right? Our students have to have a cross-cultural savvy. They have to have a domain-independent problem-solving skill set. They also have to be able to see the forest from the trees. And I think that's the essence of the MBA. And I think that's been the distinguishing feature that's driven a lot of the value and the success that we're all seeing over this cycle. And so, in Asia, the opportunity is huge here. There's a lot of capital flowing around in this part of the world. And so I think a lot of the market, which, 5-10 years ago when I got over here, there was a skepticism of the MBA, but the scale of the problems and the complexity of the problems has made people think, we need a different kind of talent that, can help us realize the growth potential. There's a lot of money on the line. And, I think the market is coming around more and more, to this notion of the value add that the MBA can, solve problems, engender buy-in, and do it in a cross-cultural setting, which all of our schools are located in, bastions of multiple cultures. And so, so I think in our program, we try to, we have our vernacular for these, kind of interdisciplinary skills, our smart and sharp skills, our vernacular for hard and soft skills. And, we think, of course, the technical skills are important, but those need to be sharpened. The half-life of those technical skills are changing. And, the enablement of digital technology has helped us, resharpen those skills. We hold activities for our alums to keep them current with what's going on in the market. We also, through experiential learning, which I think a lot of schools are doing, and we do a ton of, it really also helps to use those smart skills or those facilitation skills that help get things done and apply those technical skills in a way that can have the most impact. And so I think this has been, in a lot of ways, a blessing for us. We used to do action learning projects all around the region. And likewise, what you talked about earlier, the digital, proliferation of Zoom and everything like that has allowed us greater reach with recruiters, but it's also allowed us to expand our learning opportunity set. And so where most of our projects were just in Southeast Asia, now we've got projects in Brazil, excuse me, sorry, China, and further reaching places. And so it's kind of opened up more access to more challenging problems, and so it's been, I think, helpful in developing our students and even better positioning them for what's down the road.
Right. Zeynep, in terms of those skills, and Tony mentioning virtual as a new destination, what do you see in terms of skills that INSEAD MBA students have really had to nurture and develop to prepare them for the sort of job market of today?
Yes, I mean, COVID definitely been a digital accelerator. I agree with all the panelists. And obviously we added some AI and digital marketing related courses into the curriculum, and we offer 75 electives designed to meet the current demands of the market. And at the careers, we do blended workshops. And we also pay attention to what recruiters tell us, obviously, and the LinkedIn and Financial Times surveys. And also there is a survey by McKinsey defining the skills the future citizens will need in the world of work. And they talk about 4 skills: is adaptability, coping with uncertainty, synthesizing the messages, and achievement orientation. So I think the teaching methodology at INSEAD is very case-based assignments in group work in a culturally diverse environment. And obviously it's a very intense, packed 1-year program full-time. This is definitely favorable to deal with change, uncertainty, and information overload.
Right. One of our panelists yesterday talked about, perhaps it fits in with the uncertainty, being able to deal with ambiguity.
Mm-hmm.
How do we prepare our students to deal with ambiguity?
I think it's, in today's world, I think cultural awareness is one of the ways to deal with it, because I don't know if you know the book of Erin Meyer, Culture Map. She talks about low and high communication. And, when we put people in different backgrounds, Netherlands, Dutch culture is very known for the direct low, and Americans as well. When you give negative feedback, suddenly countries shift. Russians, very high context, become low. I mean, it's very great. I love it. I'm passionate about this subject. But when we put people in assignments with a, French pilot, Israeli doctor, a Lebanese management consultant, and Chinese hedge fund manager, and you have to do your assignment, you will be graded together. There, I think you know how to be agile, you know how to prioritize, you know how to deal with uncertainty. That's why when I say the methodology, honestly, we do the process, but the magic happens when our participants bring their full personality. And that's why diversity, but also inclusion is super important for us. I want them to bring their whole self to the program, and that they are genuine and authentic. And that's why I think agility works, because when you are authentic, you can achieve many, many great things. And I believe we offer that.
Presumably the way that we network, Tony, has also changed, because, Zoom, great, but it has its limitations. Have you sort of worked with students on new ways of networking, new ways of reaching out to people that you won't be meeting face-to-face at a conference?
Yes, of course, we've been working on that quite a bit. Obviously, all our networking workshops have been shifted to talk about how you have a proper way of working, whether it's on a recruiting presentation where you're listening to a speaker and intervening, even to very basic things about how you dress. To be dressed professionally, even in front of a screen, even if it's very difficult. I'd just like to go back, though, if I may, to just something that Zainab said about the skill set that MBAs need. I think that, okay, maybe 5 years ago in the tech world, people were talking about product management. Product management is a very important thing. And, when you break it down, and I hope I'm not saying it incorrectly here, but when you break it down, it's actually being able to explain, being able to understand complex tech solutions and being able to translate those into the ways that the customer understands them and vice versa. There's no question that the big challenge coming up now is all connected with sustainability, the environment, climate change, everything. Every company, whether they like it or not, is going to be dragged into this field in the next 5 to 10 years. If we're not thinking about it now, we're being very foolish, either on terms of our curriculum or also what we're doing on career counseling and offering events as well too. I think that the MBA once again will help. The skill set that MBAs learn helps them to understand different sides of a problem and being able to see, like, for instance, when you talk about environmental issues, like, what are the solutions? What are they really? Are they coming from government? Are they coming from business? How much of business is just greenwashing? What businesses are genuinely concerned about these, et cetera, et cetera? I think these are the kind of challenges that MBA students are going to have, because their careers post-MBA is going to be very much connected with being with companies that position themselves well for this huge world of change that's coming in the next 10 years. There's no question about that. In my experience, I can't really tell you why or how, is that the MBA actually prepares people to do these kinds of tasks really quite well. And I think that in many cases, people are beginning to see that even better than a specialized master's, actually. An MBA works better. So maybe because it's so generalist, I don't know. I just wanted to say that, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was about to say you're 4 fantastic panelists and that I should be recording you, but then I realized we are recording you and lots of people are going to be watching this on YouTube and Facebook in the weeks and months to come. You're incredibly articulate and thoughtful. The network,
Can I go back to
oh, sorry. Sean, yes, and then I'm going to go to you up and talk about the importance of alumni, but please go ahead.
So I wanted to jump back to the point on ambiguity and how do you train for that. And I think that's where, you put students in situations where there aren't really answers. And I think there's, with experiential learning, I think these are situations where you put students in real world settings, working with corporate partners or entrepreneurial firms to really solve problems. And one of the things that we see is that, when you put them in these settings, a lot of times the problems that organizations think they have are not even the real problem, right? And so when the students work with them, they help redefine the problem and the real issue, and address, instead of just addressing some of the symptoms of the problem. And when you have a faculty member working with a student in that way, more as a learning coach, and then it's kind of like, because it's an applied setting, it really serves to deliver a testing effect of recalling the different things that they've learned in the classroom. And I think that really helps them better cope with the ambiguity. And then when you put them in a different cultural setting, like Zainab brought up a great point, the diversity, one of the things that, that's really been helpful in transforming our students from a career perspective is that if you're doing a project for someone in Brazil, and then you have a team of a Malay, an Indian, someone from Korea, someone from Africa, and someone from Mexico, you got all that. You're taking this super diverse group, and then you're putting them in a different setting, working virtually and working remotely. And I think when you create those kind of tensions in their learning environment, it helps them become a lot more agile, such that they can handle ambiguity, in a way that's not really big to them after a while. Yeah.
So, I guess the alumni are also at that demonstration of being back out into the workplace and recognizing those ambiguities. perhaps that's also one of the sort of areas and insights that they share. But I mean, it is a really important part of the business school experience, Joop, in terms of the alumni. How do you sort of work with them and engage to either create new opportunities or to share their learning?
Yeah, no, alumni are extremely important. Absolutely, that definitely counts for all of us. We do involve our alumni very intensively. There is, in the middle of the MBA program, we have these living management projects, which is real company challenges to solve. Most of those projects are brought to us by alumni for their organization, for their company. And if you look into the preparation towards the recruitment market, I mean, there are many opportunities to meet alumni, cases to discuss, discussion sessions, and also we provided those online. And actually, meeting alumni online is even easier. They do not need to travel to the university anymore. They can just plug in from wherever they are. So in that respect, we used to have these sessions on campus, which was great, and the networking opportunity with a drink, definitely. I definitely prefer those. However, what we also learned is that it was fairly easy to organize any event or any activity to connect alumni with our students. And then in the whole technology, I mean, we had already invested in what we call RSM Mentor Me, which is a platform where alumni sign up to become a mentor. And as a student, you can create your profile and search for alumni who have already sign up to advise or to give feedback to students around certain topics. So it really helps you to match to find the right alumni. And then you can connect with previous students. So there are so many different ways. And then the whole COVID learned to us that online is possible. It saves a lot of traveling. It makes it easier to find a spot in the agendas. But like already said, meeting them is definitely that extra. But for getting information, getting support, and finding jobs, definitely connecting with alumni is very wise to do.
There's a great INSEAD alumni network all over the world, Zainab, and you're very busy people, whether working in consulting, finance, tech, other industries. Do you then sort of guide students in terms of how to most effectively, reach out to people? It's not just the same LinkedIn message that you would send to 50 people. If you really want to make a strong connection, presumably there are smart ways of reaching out.
Absolutely. And before joining the panel, I checked, we do have 62,916 alumni in 167 countries. So yes, it's a big pool to reach out to. And obviously, you need to be culturally aware. What works in, Manhattan wouldn't work in Marseille. So you need to calibrate your message. Definitely, we do have a system of coaches. So career coaches attributed to each and every MBA student and MIM student. And we do have a large class of 500 twice a year. So you can imagine they are busy. They don't have a dull moment, but they help them in a very tailored made personalized way to prepare them how to do that outreach. We do also have some workshops, and I do have very talented colleagues, and we do role playing, and it is very important for students to be in that safe space to practice and understand. And also according to sectors, you mentioned financial services and management consulting, maybe that is a bit different and faster comparing to a corporate. So you want to be in one page iPhone screen when you write your message, and when you want to be concise, and when you want to be like the ask should be very clear, and you need to give some options to connect maybe. But when you are writing to a multinational corporation head in the Germany, maybe you would like to send a long email and speak about your story. It's like we calibrate that. We teach them a lot. And I think their peers in our alumni community also are very helpful. I mean, honestly, this job is fantastic thanks to our alumni community. I have good friends over the years, and they are really coming forward with that. And we launched something similar to something called iLink, which is the huge alumni platform that alumni are volunteering to mentor the current participants. And there you can ask for mentorship as well. So let me, for example, I would like to move to Argentina. I can find somebody working there, knowing the culture, asking, for a mentorship, and then I learn and I calibrate my communication style.
Now, the MBA, Tony, HEC Paris from mid-20s through to early 30s. As you then compare that to the great number of specialized master's programs, including, the Masters in Management that HEC Paris has, very successful program. Do you think that the MBA does have this special place, given those 4, 5, 6, 7 years of pre-MBA experience, and therefore, there's a package that is very different from someone that got their master's straight or almost straight out of undergrad?
I think there is a difference. It's not to knock the masters, the specialized masters. HEC is actually number 2 in terms of its masters in management, and I think number 1 in terms of the masters in finance. And it's true to say that all the investment banks beat a path to our door to meet these students. It's great. It's great for the school, etc. We also work with specialized master's students. So, for instance, we have an Impact Career Day. We work very closely with our SASE master's students, Sustainability and Social Innovation. They're a great bunch of students. They're really fantastic, really committed. But there's something about the MBA, and I can see this actually, and Sean referred to this earlier. We can see this even more in the last 5 years, even in the last couple of years. More and more requests are coming from our employers looking for MBA talent. Now, I say this because my job is across all programs at HEC, not just the MBA. And it's striking even in the last 6 months, how many times we would be having a general conversation with the recruiter, and he or she would come back to saying, well, I also want to, I'm looking for MBA talent. This is the profile I'm looking for, and it fits MBA talent. So there's something there. There's something definitely there. The dealing with ambiguity, the fact that you can translate, if you wish, complex issues in a simple way. The fact that so many people from MBAs go into consulting, the fact that consulting firms like MBAs, because consulting firms, it's a weird mix of very strong analytical skills, but also good communication skills. So right brain, left brain, the whole thing together. We are also doing very well in our MBA program. We've increased our MBA program in the last 2 to 3 years. But I don't think at the expense of any other program. I think every program is growing. At least every top program is growing. And this is a sign that more and more people are attracted to it and can see something from it. So I'm actually very, very upbeat about the future of the MBA. And it's funny because in the media, it seems to be less at the moment, oh, what's the value of an MBA? These kind of articles come up every so often. It seems to be less current now than it was the case a few years ago. So yeah, I think it's very positive. Yeah, but I'm seeing this on the ground. Maybe just to finish with one example is if HEC was kind of, or at least French business schools are sort of seen in the outside world as being connected with the top luxury firms like LVMH and Kering and so on. And that's very true. They're all partners of the school, very close to them. But what we're now seeing in the last 2 to 3 years is they are seriously committed to MBA talent, much more so than they were before, because they tended before to get master's students, even younger, sort of promote from within. They had no shortage of candidates because of the industries they're in. And just looking at the data for 2021, we currently are at almost 10% placed in luxury, which is an absolute first for us. I mean, it's really, really going really well. But I think it's also maybe, Zainab, you're seeing the same thing, a sign that luxury firms really, really value this talent in a way which they didn't, frankly, 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. So that's an example on the ground from the school I work in.
So, from this example of course, you're working with MBA students also for that longer term career picture, not just the first job as they come out. As you then sort of talk with alumni at RSM, who are 5 years out, that they've, negotiated, how do you continue to sort of guide and support them for those, that they're out in the big world, no longer on the campus, but do you still, provide sort of guidance for those next steps of their career?
Yeah, absolutely. What we were just talking about, that mentoring program that does continue. It's not only alumni mentoring students, but also alumni mentoring alumni. And we have all kinds of continuous education opportunities, network opportunities. And in itself, alumni do find alumni. I mean, it's also a world of their own. And I think that is the most valuable support which there is. Of course, as a school, we offer all kinds of different solutions and services to our alumni. But more importantly is the networks which students build themselves. And it's so easy to reach out using LinkedIn. You do not even need any tools of the school. The LinkedIn has great possibilities to find other people in areas, locations, functions, industries, and yeah, alumni reach out to other alumni frequently, and that's really a huge value of all these tools available and doing the MBA. It's a connector.
Right. Do they ever sort of say, hey, we actually learned this during the program and I didn't see how I'd need to use it at first, but now 5 years later, it really makes sense to me?
A lot. And unfortunately, I think as I'm director of the Career Center, a lot of what we train them about their career growth, what often happens is that alumni come back and say, oh, we had this one session and I really did not like it and I didn't see the logic behind it. But actually, it was the most useful lesson I learned. And 3 years after graduating, I was in this situation, and I thought back about that one role play we did in one of these career workshops, or yeah, very often, very often. Which, yeah, when we talk about it already, kind of laughing, but it's like, yes, it is. We know it is. That is true, and it is sometimes a bit of a battle that we have to. Explain students, hey, this is really valuable, you will learn. And that's very often has also to do with that cultural mix. Zeynep already mentioned that a few times. That cultural mix has this extra dimension, and sometimes something happens and you don't really realize what happened at that moment, but then sometime later, it can be weeks, but it can also be years, then you realize, oh, that's what they meant, and that's what I learned out of that situation.
Right. So with our audience, Sean, that are thinking about all of these wonderful, 4 wonderful schools that you all represent, what advice do you then give that applicant about choosing the right program? We've talked about that sort of frontier mindset that you've really developed in KL. What does it come down to be able to make the right choice for you?
Yeah, I think it's an intersection of the fit and culture of the school, right? And so, one of the things that we sell is that, hey, we're in Southeast Asia, on the ground, on the frontier of Asia, and it's not always comfortable here, right? And so you're going to be doing a action learning project on the ground in a shop floor in Indonesia with no AC. You're going to be sweating, right? And it's part of our experience is to get you comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And, I think every school has their kind of fit, right? And this, when we go through the admissions process, we tell everyone, this isn't for everyone, right? And our students are more predisposed to maybe working on the frontier of Asia in the emerging markets, right? But, we do have versatility. What we're seeing in our alumni community is that 47% of our alums work outside of Asia across 34 different countries. And so we also tell them, though, is Asia matters everywhere. So even if you're not in Asia, someone might find value in your experience. And then so, we've been talking too that, today we were just talking about, we need to have a session on students are looking at Europe, right? As mobility has gotten a little bit more complicated, our students are looking for, additional options, right? And we have networks, we're also part of the MIT Sloan alumni. Our students get kind of affiliate, associate, alumni status with MIT Sloan. And so that gives them more access beyond just Asia. And so we tell people, like, you got to pick the school that kind of aligns with where you want to be 5, 10 years from now and what the culture looks like. And, I always tell people, you go to the info session and you look at the people in the room and, you talk to them and do their responses resonate with you. And so if you go to an ASB info session and the responses resonate with you and the frontier mindset, this is the place you need to be. But if you go to INSEAD and the responses and the people's stories resonate with you, that's where you should go, right? And so, and I think a lot of the schools have done a great job of creating platforms on the admissions side to gain more access to people so that everyone gets to the best place for them. Because I don't think any of the 4 of us want anyone here, like, we don't want anyone at ASB who wanted to go to INSEAD, and not because INSEAD is not a fantastic school, but if that, if that was the best fit for you, that was the place where you should have gone. Or if HEC was the best fit for you, that's the place you should have gone. And likewise, I think it's the same for the other schools, right? It's, so much of it is fit, and do you fit with the ethos of that school, right? And, we have all the stats, everyone has all that on their website, but it's really kind of that connection that everyone develops through the process with the school, right?
Well, one final question I'm going to address to Zeynep. Zeynep, when Virginie was with us yesterday for the admissions director panel, behind her it talked about INSEAD and coming together, the togetherness as a theme. As we think about diversity, equality, inclusion, we think about gender wage gaps, creating opportunities for underrepresented minorities. Do you feel that business school in INSEAD can really play an important role to create more opportunities?
Absolutely. And our alumni agrees with us. They gave us like 40 million euros to set up a fantastic excellence center for sustainability and social impact and all those issues. And our motto is business school for a better world. And I really believe in it. And what happens, exactly what Sean says, when you click with people and when you see role models, when you see people like you achieving great things, sharing your values, sharing your personal, feelings, that is something that we provide to people coming from all around the world. Maybe they did not see those role models elsewhere, but I think our fantastic alumni body definitely shows them this togetherness, and we mean it. It's not just the student body. The staff is very international. I don't have my team is super international. The faculty is super international, and it's not just the nationality. It's the way they think. It's the cultural awareness. So I work very closely with Virginie, and she is paying a lot of attention to this experience that they create in the classroom, so that everybody can be authentic, but also can learn from each other. Definitely.
Right. Well, the 4 of you, and we hold our students to building a better world, being a force for positive change. The 4 of you certainly make this a better event, and I want to thank each of you, Tony, Zeynep, Sean, and that was a fantastic session that we just had. And I know how much our viewers appreciate this, or perhaps those that are now catching this on YouTube, do share it with others, because I think the sort of insights, the passion, the enthusiasm that all 4 of you share, and of course, just back to Tony's first comment, the opportunities for MBAs, it's a great market, it's a great investment. So all 4 of you, thank you for a wonderful careers panel together. Stay safe and well, keep that quiet optimism for 2022, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.